Last time I talked about applying the precept, do not kill, to feeling angry at other drivers. But apparently two people here didn't hear that. But I didn't bring up the aggressiveness of the drivers themselves. Though this is not directed at anyone in particular, this is those drivers that we get mad at. It may come from them. They're being aggressive. The drivers may come from them really being in a hurry, and that's the nature of my talk today. Is called on slowing down. So here we go. We ourselves, perhaps unaware of it, may sometimes show aggressiveness in doing quickly things we don't like or aren't interested in. Raise your hands if that's you. One hand right here. Okay, so there we are. Having to do what we don't want to, pardon me again, we desire to get, we can do things that we feel are more important and or more fun. An example of this could be rushing through doing the dishes so as not to miss something being looked forward to. Whether we like or dislike something also affects our sense of time, as everyone knows. Time passes too slowly when we aren't happy with doing what we have to do, but too quickly when we're enjoying doing what we are doing. In practicing Zazen in everyday life, which means off the cushion or chair, hurrying is counterproductive. The truth can be actualized only in the here and now. But we may rush through moments when doing what we don't like and drag our feet when doing what we like, as if to stop the next moments from occurring. Fortunately, one thing it has is to slow down our thinking. Likes and dislikes are irrelevant when thoughts are not being paid attention to. Slowing down is also important in the ordinary things we do, as it will lead to each thing being done more thoroughly. Buddhism teaches that things cannot be said to exist in that nothing lasts forever. Each thing thus being without a permanent self-identity, everything instead should be taken as having the same value. Which in this case of emptiness would be zero. The value of everything in emptiness would be zero, metaphorically, not really. Another way of saying this is that all things that we do are of equal value, both simple things and doing the wash, or things that require, such as doing the wash, or things that require more thought, such as helping someone who could use some help. In that each thing is one of the things that we do, each is no better or worse than anything else we do. It follows that attention should be paid to each thing that we do in our lives equally. This is the result of emptiness, understanding emptiness. Once we experience such things as being the same as all others, each being a part of emptiness, each nevertheless has its own distinct, if momentary, value. It is not a matter of illusionary things being poignant, but that in the past our desires have gotten in the way. Likes and dislikes shape, if not control, how we see each thing that we do. Having recognized the effect of the world of desire on us, in Buddhism there are said to be three worlds: the world of desire, the world of form and the world of no form. Having recognized the emptiness of the world of desire, which is mostly concerned with taking care of ourselves, we see more clearly now that they meaning these desires are no longer, I'm sorry, that these, what we're doing, these things that we do are no longer distorted by what we like and what we dislike. That all things are the same, yet each thing is different, is commonly expressed as form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is emptiness means that from the point of view of form, everything is empty due to, as I just said, each thing lacking an intrinsic nature. While emptiness is form means from the point of view of emptiness, form, that is each thing, is unique. As said above, the truth of emptiness as form will not be recognized, however, without the background of each thing being experienced as empty. Then the entire universe being expressed in each thing makes each thing both complete and vivid. Ordinarily, when things are not going well in life, we may worry that samsara, i.e. form, is all that there is. But we don't worry nearly as much once it is revealed that nirvana, i.e. emptiness, is behind it all. Theistic religions answer the question of where we come from with belief in a deity. But for us, it is enough to have faith that through our practice, we can experience the absolute, our true nature, Buddha nature, in this lifetime. Though Rinzai Zen Buddhism focuses first on realizing that form is emptiness through having Satori or Kensho, enlightenment in Japanese, Soto Zen Buddhism stresses making realization real. That is, actualizing realization through experiencing the unity of emptiness and form in each moment. As we normally are speeding right past enlightenment, as it were, in our ordinary life, it follows that we should consider slowing down in whatever we are doing. Thank you. So let me get everybody else involved here, which means Harvey's still here, but she may still move. I gotta move. I'm sorry, Harvey, I gotta move.
Come on, Harvey.
She lasted the whole talk. That's a long time.
Yeah. She's in the mood.
She's had enough. All right, now keep going. Come back. Okay, here we go. All right. Here's Jane. She's giving me her back right now. Yeah.
Hi, sweetie.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions or remarks or anything like that?
I have a comment.
Yes. Oh, it is. Yes, Blue.
I thought enlightenment was, or realization was the first step.
I'm sorry, realization with the.
Is the first step. It's the beginning of the path.
It's the beginning of the past.
Path.
Oh, path. Enlightenment? Well, that's a good question. A good comment. Good question, but a kind of question. We have the Oxford. We have two different metaphorical things. One is Zen, and one is pre-Zen. One is the Eightfold Path. Okay, and the second of the first one is hearing of the Dharma, or hearing about the Dharma, and maybe starting to sit. In our case, sit. There are other ways of practicing, but in our case, it's sitting. But then the second one is and I forgot the right words for it actually, but is following the Dharma. But what that is not quite accurate actually. But anyway, what that means is you discover that you really are going to do this. You make it with not to anybody else, but to yourself. You make or is made for you by yourself, because it may happen that, oh, I got it. If that got it is not enlightenment usually considered enlightenment, but that got it means what Sukiyoshi used to call way-seeking mind. Okay? And way-seeking mind is in a way kind of represents that the possibility of enlightenment. For example, the second metaphorical way is the 10 ox turning pictures. The first one is um, actually hearing about the ox. I guess hearing about the ox. The second one is not quite right either, is looking for the ox. And the third one is finding the ox. Okay. Now, that ox can be interpreted in a couple different ways. But one way, particularly, I believe we have Daniel here that can reinform me if this is not actually right. But that finding the ox, sometimes I believe this actually is a Rinzai Zen. The 10 ox turning pictures is actually from Rinzai Zen, and so that is also can mean seeing the ox is like seeing enlightenment. So that also is towards the beginning. Okay. But actually, finally, if you use the metaphor of the ox turning pictures as ox turning pictures, true enlightenment actually happens in a couple of stages, but at the end of the ox turning pictures. But anyway, the number 8 is either is portrayed, because it was a picture, as just the moon or nothing. Okay, and that's usually what is considered final enlightenment, or like final enlightenment. Although actually there's the 8 and 9. So therefore, from what I'm talking about the Ashram pictures, initial Kensho or Satori could very well be what happens. And so my feeling about Rinzai Zen, having never studied it at all, is that that they stress that they call it the Dharmakaya koans, I think, because that functions as making a way-seeking mind for you. You see the reality of things for the first time, and you. So, in my there's various ways of having a way-seeking mind. Okay, I haven't told this story before, but in my case, for way-seeking mind, I was at Tassajara in my second sesshin. I wasn't really still wasn't a very. I'd gotten to Tassajara on a strange way. Suzuki Roshi asked me to come be the business manager, and I was footloose at that point. So I said, sure, why not, for a few months, and I stayed on, but I wasn't really super serious about it. And then I had the experience during a sesshin that my real father wasn't my father. My father was Buddha, and that I was a bodhisattva, and that was my experience of way-seeking mind. Now, everyone's different, but if I had had a kensho, which I did not, or had satori experience, I think it probably would have had the same function, right? So, for example, in Vajrayana, once again, I don't know that either, but a few things that I've noticed through other people's experience and mine a little teeny bit is that a Vajrayana teacher is able to kind of give you a little zap, and at that time, you see something that you never had seen before, and it shows you the power of the Dharma to you. It's a kind of and so I think that's how they do that. I don't know if that's a rule or not, but that's of two experiences I've heard about. That they do that. One experience that I've talked about is that when our teacher in Japan had an experience where she met a teacher, her second teacher, first one had died. She met a second teacher, and from that moment exactly, she became clairvoyant just from meeting the second teacher. She didn't nothing. He didn't pass anything. There was no ceremony, but after that, she was able to see this way, which often can happen in Vajrayana teachings. It's not necessarily, but it often happens that's you can be that you're psychic. That's a long answer, by the way. I'm sorry about that, anybody, but didn't seem to have any questions anyway. So very good one. So yes, yeah. It's from my point of view, yes. As you can see, what I answered is that in the case of Rinzai Buddhism, that's just the start, and then there's a whole series of hundreds of koans that you have to go through. I guess it varies. I think in one list is 400, and then so the practice continues with the teacher and with koans all along. But the first one is that one to settle your practice with a real experience of what the true nature of things is. That experience also happens to people in the middle of their practice in other forms, particularly in the case of, once again, Vajrayana Buddhism. People understand, this is using Trump as metaphor, but they understand the basic goodness of the world and of the self. And so there are many, but all these things are signposts. But we need signposts. We don't have a map, and so we need signposts. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we're succeeding, and actually we're not succeeding, but we are. Except because you all know, if you think you're succeeding, you're in big trouble. Okay, but on the other hand, they help you a little bit too. They push you a little bit. Anybody else have a question or comment? Mike, you must have something.
I always have something. I just don't know how to put it into words. Now, I'm retired and disabled, so I'm not in the modern world like a lot of people are. But to be in the moment, you almost have to be able to move faster than you used to, because everybody's multitasking, and jobs demand it, and life demands it and stuff. So you can't really slow down physically because the demands are there. You have to keep moving. So the trick more like being in the now at high speed. Can that be used, or do we have to actually try to slow down our world, even though it demands much more interaction?
I've talked about multitasking before, being a multitasker myself, and so no, I would say multitasking is kind of like having not having a single shot from Starbucks, but a double shot. And no, because so in the case of multitasking, you're kind of guaranteed you're not going to get anywhere, because you're doubled up your thinking. Rather than let go of your thinking, you've doubled it up. You're thinking two things at the same time. It's sometimes I discourage people from not most. You can sometimes, if you're counting your breath, and when you find you've left it, which we all do rather very quickly, 2 or 3 after maybe 3 or 4 seconds, we can quickly, another thought will want to come into our brains. So it's very natural. But some people can remember the count at the same time that they had a thought, and then they just keep going. They don't stop and go back to zero. So that's a kind of multitasking in Zen. It's not going to hurt you, of course, but it's a little. You kind of double the futility of it.
So you still want to strive to slow down your life, even though it may be difficult due to demands of life. You
Well,
still want to try and
of
slow it
course,
down?
sometimes you have to move fast. Yes, Mark. I think Mark has an answer here for us.
I don't want to butt in, but
Go right ahead.
if you
Yes.
feel like I can, I'll try it.
Go ahead.
I think what you were saying, Peter, is that we should give every moment its due. It's and time for it. I think the paradox or the problem can arise is like, well, how do I do that? I've got so much on my plate. I can't possibly, you know, get through this. Well, you could look at your desires as driving you. But I think what happens naturally, if you spend time with things and yourself, you find that you don't have to do any more meaningless activity. You could just drop it. It might mean that, well, I do this job, it's meaningless, it means nothing to me, it brings in money, I've got to do it. Well, do you really? Could you just drop that job and maybe somehow things would come to you? It takes a lot of, but that's a kind of an extreme example. But let's just say we all do a lot of needless, meaningless activity in our daily life. And I think just being aware of that, you can immediately stop doing it. And is that a judgment? Do you consider that a judgment call, Peter?
Oh, I don't know about that, Mark. I think that's a nice example of one way to do it. Yeah.
Well, I think it just naturally happens once you pay
Well,
attention.
well, I think that's probably correct. I mean, people try to adapt the mindset of zazen into everyday life, and of course, it's not possible. Well, and what does that mean? Okay, because you know we aren't trying to keep our minds clear. We're trying to do what we're doing, but we should do what we're doing one thing at a time, if we can. If you have to do two at a time, then, and that can happen, then do two at a time, but keep your mind on it, even though it's making it a little more difficult to do it. The idea is not to have a zazen mind. The idea is to pay attention. That's it. Pay attention. It's hard, but this, just so be aware, not obnoxiously so, but just, when you are really concentrating and you're enjoying it and you're liking your job or you're just doing your job and you're interested, you are in a zazen mind, in the sense of you are just doing your job. You're not thinking of yourself at all. You're just doing it. Yourself is not involved. So I've said this before, but of course, at the end of it, you may say to yourself, "Oh, that went well," or "I did good," and then of course, then that other mind comes in. But until that point, you weren't aware of the self being involved. So when that comes in, you say, "Oh, there I go again." That's silliness, and just pass on to the next thing that you do. Yes, Chris.
I often find myself, when the slowing down happens when I pay attention to what I'm doing and where I'm at. And that to me is bringing the Zazen mind into the world. So when you're like, you're not bringing the Zazen mind, you're paying attention. I was like, that's the same thing. So my question is, if that's not what a Zazen mind is, then what is a Zazen mind?
Oh no, I agree, Chris. I agree because I was just thinking about your job, and which I haven't heard in detail, but I have a big idea about it. But what you do is very important because if there's Chris goes over. I just talk for him actually. Chris works on big ships that have been finished building, and now they have to check that everything on the ship works. Otherwise, something terrible could happen at sea. But they do check very carefully. And Chris's job is to check. He does some section that he does of checking everything that can happen, checking everything is connected properly, everything works, and he does it. And that's you concentrate when you're doing that job, Chris. You've got to be. I mean, not because it's so important, because it is important, but because that job takes concentrating.
Yeah, I would say any activity, any moment in my life, whether or not I'm on the cushion, if I'm whether I'm using my breath as a tool to get my attention to where I'm at, or if I can just pay attention directly. Either way, it's the paying attention to me I've found is what I practice in Zazen that I can then take with me off the cushion where I'm not, doing formal Zazen, but if I want to slow down, that's how to do it, is
Sure.
pay very good attention to what I'm doing and where I'm at and what's going on. What's going on.
That's what I think. Yeah, that's right. That's just how it is. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've never done that one little piece there about kind of slowing down my breath, but I can understand it. We speed. Our mind sometimes speeds, not always, but we're always speeding a bit. Try to get to the next moment. I mean, that's my kind of personality anyway. But anyway, so I don't use that trick, but it would work. I mean, or that way of doing it. Sure, why not? Yes, yes, Matt.
Yeah, but I find that when I'm doing something and my mind is wandering, it helps me to consider whatever it is that I need to be focused on as my sole responsibility in the world. That, right then and there. Nothing else is my responsibility. It's very helpful for me to.
That sounds very good. That's right. Yeah. Anyone else have to say something this time? Oh, yes, Joe.
Right, hi, it's a great topic, certainly for me.
Okay.
It's a kind of, the last time I was here, which was the first time.
Can you hear him, everybody? Okay, good.
Okay, so last time I was here, I was packing up,
Good.
and maybe because I hadn't been here for a year and a half or whatever, I realized I am so speedy. And I said, this is crazy,
Yeah.
and I must be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And I am.
Yeah.
It's like a transition. I'm here, and then I'm gonna be on the freeway, and I'm gonna see Seven, my dog. And so I said, okay, the next thing. And then I said, this is ridiculous. It really doesn't matter if I get on the freeway 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It's just totally unimportant. And so that was very powerful teaching for me. And I've been working on noticing, I'm speeding. I mean, for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's a great talk, and I want a copy, and I should read it every day, 3 or 4 times. And we were talking about just this, and by definition, speeding, you're way over there. I mean, this is here, and you're way over there. It's like packing whatever, I don't know, packing the toiletries. But I'm not there at all. I'm in the freeway speeding. So anyway, I'm working on that.
That's good. That's good. I think that's very, very helpful for our practice.
Yeah,
It's
very helpful.
Yeah. And sometimes, in my case, would be another example of my veniality, is that when I was a kid, I had to do the laundry, and not laundry, wash dishes like most families. But I didn't like it. And so anyway, I ended up, for whatever the reason may be, could be even worse reasons of things of modern times. But anyway, now I enjoy it. Now I do this. Now I am the dishwasher, because I'm retired here, and I was somewhat before, but not. But now I am the dishwasher, and myself. I mean, very, very natural to be the case, but I chose by myself to do it that way. I wasn't under any pressure for it. But now, I really enjoy doing the dishes.
Yeah.
I don't think about joy, but do the dishes is no different from doing something incredibly important in the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what the that's what the Zen mind. I hope that's what the Zen mind is.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
It feels much better.
Yeah. Okay, I think that was all very nice questions today.